Everybody, welcome back to the Move Plus. We're doing a special emergency episode to talk about the potential rumored Jumbo-Visma Soudal-QuickStep merger, to try to dig into exactly why is this happening, or why would this happen? How would this play out? What would happen to the two teams? What would happen to each rider, and the implications, and how it would work. Johan's merged multiple teams in the past, so he is a foremost expert on this. We've roped him in from the Move Mallorca camp. Johan, how's that going over there?
Hi, Spencer, and hi, everyone. Yeah, well, it's going good. We just finished our last ride. We just have one last double birthday dinner to go tonight, and then tomorrow everybody's leaving. But it's been amazing. The weather's been great, really good riding temperatures. We had no issues on the rides. Today we did a really, really hard ride with over 2,600 meters of elevation. I don't know what that translates into feet, but they're all going to have a really good meal, lots of cake, and a very good sleep, I'm sure about that. It's been great.
Folks, you hear Lance talk about it all the time. He's a sweater and he's not afraid to say it. That's why his go-to electrolyte mix is Element, spelled LMNT. It is 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. No sugar, no gluten, no artificial ingredients, no BS. It's the real deal. And best of all, if you don't like it, you can give it to a friend and Element will refund you. The Move listeners can get a free Element sample pack with any order when you order at drinklmnt, spelled out with those letters, .com/themove. That's drinklmnt.com/themove, and you get that free gift with purchase. And this is how it works. You'll get the Element sample pack, which includes 1 pack of every flavor: citrus, raspberry, orange, and unflavored. This is perfect for anyone who is interested in trying out all of the flavors, so you can see what you like and want to introduce it to a friend. It's available for new and returning customers and exclusively available through partners like The Move. You won't find this anywhere else. And there's no questions asked about these refunds. Not on any order. You don't even have to send it back. So to redeem this, make sure to go over to drinklmnt.com/themove and get your free gift with your purchase.
Let's get into the news of the last week, basically, and the rumor. And let's start by saying, and I insist, it is a rumor. Nothing has been confirmed. Although, once a rumor starts, then people start to talk and start to inquire. And this potential merge / takeover of Soudal-QuickStep with Jumbo-Visma is actually starting to become a real possibility. And I think I was really surprised to see it, honestly. I didn't see it coming, but then when you dig a little bit and I asked around, and certain things start to make more sense. Although at the beginning I said, what? There's no way that this can happen. But yeah, let's see. I have a few thoughts on that. First and foremost, I think what I really would like to point out is that it's such a surprise, because the biggest, most successful team in professional cycling right now, and maybe the best team in history, Jumbo-Visma. They won the 3 Grand Tours in one season. They won multiple Tours de France, multiple Giros, multiple Vuelta. Is in this situation. Whether it's going to happen or not, but the fact that they're considering this, I think, says a lot about the uncertainty in a sport like pro cycling. It shouldn't be, I think, that a team like that has to consider this possibility rather than finding a new sponsor, which you would think, of course, it's the best team and they have a huge budget, but the fact that they're considering this was basically a big shock to me. Don't know what you thought, Spencer, when you heard the news.
I was shocked. I was bored. I was chaotic. I was boarding a flight. I was thinking, this can't be real. And then I'm stuck on the flight for 4 hours without an ability to check what's going on. But at first I thought it was just clickbait. I was like, there's no way this is true. And it's from a single source story, which you should always take with a grain of salt. But the thing that really stuck out to me is Raymond Kerkhoffs, I believe, is the writer. He's the Dutch journalist that broke this. He's rarely wrong. I mean, he's a very reputable source. So right there, I was thinking, God, maybe there's something here. But as you said, the thing that surprised me the most is, I mean, Jumbo-Visma, incredibly successful team, doing well, big sponsorship, like big budget, good riders, but are they not? I guess the budget is going down because that's the only reason you would make this move, because it seems like they don't have the funding in place for 2024 and they need sponsors basically. We talked back, if you remember back in August when we were both on vacation and we did the show about the World Time Trial Championships, you were saying there's no way that Lefevere sells out to Ineos because he owes these sponsors. He signed these sponsorship contracts, I believe, through 2027. And you were saying there's no way he would just screw the sponsors over by either merging the team with Ineos or selling Remco to QuickStep, or sell Remco to Ineos, because QuickStep and Soudal signed those sponsorship contracts with the understanding that they would have like a world-class rider on the team.
That's true. That's true. Well, I think, however, that this has now started to develop. And personally, I think it went above the head of Patrick Lefevere, probably also above the head of Richard Plugge, who is the sole license holder of the team. And this is basically, and let's not forget, I think within this whole play, I think Ineos, although that they are not a part of this potential merge, I think it's a triangle here. Zdeněk Bakala, who's the 80% shareholder of Soudal-QuickStep, Jim Ratcliffe, who's the owner of the company Ineos and of the team Ineos, and then there's a Dutch guy, I think it's called Frank van der Wal-Bake, who is, I don't exactly know what his position is, but these are players who are, they're playing in a different league. These guys are billionaires, basically, and for them, this is a small operation. This is something that, okay, let's do this and let's fix the problems. They don't. Let's find solutions. They don't look for. They don't see problems. They look for solutions. And so, I think this is first and foremost the case. I mean, I said Lefevere would not disappoint the sponsors, but then afterwards I saw that Soudal, for example, who's the main sponsor of Soudal-QuickStep, and Zdeněk Bakala, who's basically the guy who has been funding whatever money was not enough through sponsorship. I think that the CEO of Soudal said, we are in this with or without Remco Evenepoel. I think that was really telling back then. And so I think from then on, the ball went rolling, and now we're here talking about it.
Well, yeah, and if you like Remco, you're going to love Jonas and Wout. Those guys can win quite a few races between the two of them. If you think, wow, we could be a Tour de France winning team next year, if you're Soudal, that's pretty appealing. But just to cover like the players here, Ineos really just funded by Jim Ratcliffe. Like they have an unlimited budget because Ratcliffe is, I think, the second richest man in the UK and can cover any shortfall. Zdeněk Bakala can he just writes a check. Let's say Lefevere brings in 15 million in sponsorship. It costs 30 million to run the team. He can just cover that, no problem. Jumbo-Visma, do they have a backer, or do they just have to operate with whatever Richard Plugge can bring in sponsorship money?
I think Jumbo-Visma is as far as I have been told, the paying agent of that team is called Blanco Pro Cycling, which was actually the name of the team when Richard Plugge bought the license from Rabobank cycling team. When Rabobank stopped their sponsorship, they paid one more year, but they didn't want to be on the jersey. The team was called Blanco for the people who have been following cycling since a while. And so, as far as I understand, Plugge is the license holder of the paying agent, Blanco Pro Cycling. I've also been told that Jumbo is actually one of the founding partners of the team, and reportedly, they have still 3 years of, how would I say, access or rights on the team.
Yeah.
So I think there Jumbo-Visma has 1 year. Jumbo has 1 year sponsorship left. Visma, however, has more years left. And so I think it's just a mix of different players who want to find a solution. I repeat, Spencer, I still cannot get my head around the fact that this team doesn't find a new sponsor. Um, I've been told also that there is actually a very, very good candidate to fund the team with an unlimited budget out of Saudi Arabia. But there, they are not interested in sponsorship. They're only interested in ownership. So they would want to buy the team. That's probably what Richard Plugger doesn't want to do. And I can understand why. On the other hand, if you think in the case of Patrick Lefevere, he knows that his sponsors are interested. I think Soudal. I don't know what QuickStep. Nobody's talking about QuickStep actually, but I think Soudal and Bacala, because we can call him one of the anonymous sponsors of the team. They're interested in this link with Jumbo-Visma. We don't know if the team would be called Visma Soudal or Soudal Visma or whatever, So, but I think those two, Bacala and Patrick Lefevere, they're really close. And personally, I think for Patrick Lefevere, for him personally, it would make a lot of sense because he's in his late 60s. He's been around for a long time. I think he's been very successful, but this is an ideal opportunity to basically cash in one last time and keep his team going, and then find a solution for whoever doesn't make the change to the new team. And this could be riders or staff. So at this point, we don't know what would happen with most of the riders in the staff of Soudal-QuickStep.
And so let's just say Pluga doesn't want to sell the team, and that's why Saudi Arabia is not an interesting option. Then there was like a photo with it was Pluga with Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. I would say false flag. Like, when's the last time you saw Apple sponsor anything? Apple doesn't really buy sponsorships. That's not something they do. So I would just get that out of your mind. That's probably not happening. But so then what is Bacala getting? Because I think he owns around 80% of Soudal-QuickStep currently. Is he going to get like a 50% share in the new team, the new merge team, and then Pluga would have 50%?
Yeah, this we don't know. We don't know. I personally think that when you speak about mergers or putting teams together, the main reason is always the same. It's money. It's because they're short of money. Nobody wants to merge with somebody else because they're in an incredible luxurious situation, and so it's money, and so at this point, Jumbo-Visma or Richard Plugger obviously didn't find the assurance yet for the future, and who knows what Jumbo said? They still have a commitment for next year. But it would also be possible to say, okay, we have this commitment, but since we are founding partners, we will spread this over the next 3 years, and we still fulfill our commitment on the sponsorship, right? And then that's where Richard Plugger gets in problems with the funding. Again, this is just a hypothesis, right? In case this will happen, but I think, Spencer, what we can debate about this forever, and at this point, I think nobody knows. We definitely don't know. But I think if this were to happen, the main questions are: what does Primož Roglič do? What does Remco Evenepoel do? And what's happening with the bike sponsor? There's Cervelo on the one side, and there's Specialized, who is definitely a big player in the bike industry. And I think these three questions: what with Roglič, what with Evenepoel, and what with Specialized? And I think that's, for the moment, that's an open question. Personally, from what I know, from what I've heard, it seems to be the case that Primož Roglič would be given the chance to leave. He does have a contract for the next 2 years. but he would be given the freedom to leave under circumstances. I think there's a buyout, so that would obviously also be part of the income for the new team. Let's say if there's a serious buyout plus whatever it is, 4 million, something around that in that area, that doesn't have to be paid for Primoz Roglic. Well, that's basically a 6-7 million euro income, or something that you don't have to spend.
And so let's just set the table really quick for people that aren't thinking about mergers all day, every day. So there's two licenses here, two paying agents. There's Jumbo, there's Soudal. Jumbo has 27 riders under contract for next year, so they owe those people money. Like, that's already set in stone. Soudal has 23 riders under contract for next year. They owe those people money. If these two teams merge, if they do, there'll be 50 riders under contract, 2 bike sponsors. So you have to pick one, and then a bunch of staff. The staff probably is the least problem because they get paid the less in my understanding. Like, they're not making as much money, but just the Jumbo payroll alone for 2024, I see 27 riders. I would say conservatively probably averaging €1 million a year if per person, just because you have some riders making. But if you have Wout van Aert making €4 million a year, Primo's making $3 million, Jonas making $4 to $5 to $6 million. I mean, that's going to shoot your average up across your team.
Yeah, but it's not 1 million a year average. There's no way. There's no way. I think I think what we need to consider here in terms of, and let me, I've done one real merger of two teams in 2012. We had Radio Shack Nissan and we had Leopard, and the main factor was the bike sponsor Trek. And so we put those two teams together, and let me tell you, it was a nightmare and a real disaster. It's not easy. Of course, we had a huge budget. We had the biggest budget in cycling, but we were not the best team, far from. And it's difficult to put two teams and two cultures and two different ways of thinking and strategies together. In this case, probably it would be a bit different, but yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this. I think personally, if this happens, I think it's almost sure that Primoz Roglic moves on to another team. He can have a 2-year deal, very good contract somewhere, and he can have his chances in the Tour de France as the sole leader of another team, whether that be Ineos or Movistar, or I've heard there's been talks with Jaiko Alula, or anybody else. Bahrain maybe could be an option. I think that's if this merger would happen, I think Primoz leaves. Now,
Remco, and he helps fund the team, as you said, because they don't have to pay him and they get a cash payment for letting him go. He's probably critical to this merger. Yeah.
So, but I think Remco Evenepoel is the big question. And at first I was thinking, there's no way Remco wants to be part of this. He's moving on to Ineos because he's publicly, or at least his agent, his dad, publicly said, Ineos is the place to be. They're state of the art. Well, Jumbo-Visma is more state of the art than Ineos in the last few years. So
yeah, who's winning more in the last 5 years between those two teams?
If Remco really wants to have the best environment, it's on Jumbo-Visma. So that's one thing solved. Then you're on the team with Jonas Vingegaard, yes, but there's no more Primoz Roglic. As for now, Remco still needs to prove that he is up to the level of Vingegaard, Pogacar in the Tour de France. He's won the Vuelta, great result, but he's failed in the other Grand Tours for several reasons. But as for now, we don't know the value of Remco Evenepoel. So in the Tour de France. So personally, I think at this point, if Remco Evenepoel would be the sole leader of Ineos against Pogacar and against Vingegaard, I think for next year his chances are slim. what better place to be than on the team of the winner of the last 2 years? Let's not forget Jonas Vingegaard won the Tour de France 2 years ago, where he was not the leader, and he was the co-leader with Primoz Roglic, but Primoz Roglic had a problem. 3 years ago, he was second in the Tour because Primoz Roglic crashed out. So sometimes it's not so bad to be on the same team as the big favorite, because it actually increases your chances. Because if you have that team around you, look, I mean, who won the Tour of Spain? Sepp Kuss won the Tour of Spain. So it's not that far-fetched, this idea of Evenepoel making the change to Jumbo-Visma. I think it would go against his temperament, and I could definitely understand that, because he's a winner and he wants to be the sole leader, and rightfully so. But if you think really about it, it's not that stupid, to think about, okay, maybe Remco moves to this and he goes for the Giro or he goes for the Vuelta. In the Tour, he still needs to learn anyway.
Yeah, logically, this makes sense. Like, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. But emotionally, I think it could be hard for him. But maybe because what did we talk about ad nauseum during the Vuelta? You're like, wow, QuickStep does not have the infrastructure in place to compete in Grand Tours. This is not really the setup that's going to deliver Remco Evenepoel to, let's say, Grand Tour superstardom. Well, this would solve a lot of those problems. He's going to the best. If they could sell him on it, I do see where you're coming from, that if he wants to win the Tour, being on Jumbo is the best option, and he's probably not winning next year anyway. So just go with Jonas. And if Jonas has a problem, it's exactly what you're saying. Jonas was behind Primoz. Primoz had a problem. Boom. Now Jonas is winning. So maybe you could sell him on that. Let's just say this happens. I hate that this is happening, by the way. I think this is terrible for the sport. Not only that Jumbo can not find a sponsor, but then you just have these two, maybe not. Soudal's kind of fallen on hard times, even when you look at their roster. Not as many superstars as you think would be on that team, especially with Alaphilippe's recent dip in form. But this is going to be a really, really dominant team. The fact that I was excited to sit around next summer and watch Remco and Primoz and Jonas duke it out at the Tour, and now Remco is probably going to be working for Jonas is not that fun to think about. But if this does happen, walk us through how this plays out. Like, who acquires who, what license gets sold off, and how does that work?
Here it's clear that, and the structure and the identity remains Richard Plugge, the manager, Marijn Zeeman, the sports manager. Identity remains Jumbo-Visma, or Visma now. Who knows? And all these riders, or at least the riders who want to make the move. Let's say also one thing I want to point out, Spencer. So there's the UCI rules, yeah. And so let's say if there's a merger, every team is responsible for honoring the commitments to those riders. But the ones who don't want to go do not have to go. There's this theory that, apparently the UCI rules have changed a little bit, that in case of a merger, it's the it's the Pro Cycling Council that needs to make a decision or the approval. But let's not forget, these are just the UCI rules. I always say, these are just the rules of a hobby club of old fellows together, which is the UCI, who think that they rule the world. But any lawyer with a bit of experience would basically whack the floor with the UCI rules, because this is labor law. And if the international and European law, it's that they have to follow. So, and especially considering the players we're dealing with, Bacala, the guy from Jumbo, I always forget his name. I think it's Van der Wal, and Radcliffe. These guys, they're not worried about the UCI rules. They have their people figuring out, okay, what does European law say, right? So I think that's doable. Now, to come back, Spencer, on 50 riders, we said, in total, 27, 23 on both sides. Let's not forget that both of those teams have also continental teams, or development teams. Now, Soudal's setup of the development team is actually a Conti team, a Conti or Pro Conti. I don't remember what it is, but that makes you able to switch riders from one team to the other all the time. So if Soudal maintains their team, and if Jumbo-Visma is a development team, so that's an under 23 team, but it's easy to make that a Conti team with the same development riders still in it, but you also have more place to put other riders in. That you pay them the same salary as they have on their contract, but they're just in the secondary team of that team. So I think that's a possibility. And then the other possibility, which is also something that we would have to consider, is that if this is real, there's one license up for grabs or for sale. And logically, the license would be the Soudal-QuickStep Bacala/Lefevere license. So for them, it's also a good opportunity to cash out on the license. I'm pretty sure there's candidates that would want that license. And also with that license come a bunch of commitments to be negotiated. But I'm pretty sure that if there's one team, let's say Israel, we have another player that plays in that same league, Sylvain Adams, already known for making certain decisions that, from a sports point of view, haven't been proven very successful, but he doesn't seem to care. And he has very deep pockets. So what if Sylvain Adams of Israel, what's it called? Israel
Premier Tech,
yeah. If he wants that license, he's going to get that license, and he will also get some riders from that team. I don't know how much riders they have under contract for the moment.
They have 25.
25,
so if they
okay,
go,
but they do also have a development or a Conti team, which is open for riders that are not under 23 anymore. So you have to consider these teams with their satellite teams, right? And so these 50 riders, there's 30 going to be part of the new setup, and then those 20 can be divided amongst the others, minus Primoz Roglic, who probably will take with him Jan Tratnik. Then if Remco would go somewhere, let's say Remco doesn't want to go, he would also take with him some 2 or 3 riders. And so all of a sudden, the picture starts to become more realistic and doable.
Yeah, and so 2 things here. So I'll read Israel Premier Tech. They put out, this is an official statement. If a World Tour license were to become available, then Israel Premier Tech would be interested in obtaining the license. I mean, so if you're essentially, they're buying it, and that's going to happen, and there's no stopping it. It's also, the UCI is probably incentivized to work with the teams here. They don't want to see Jumbo-Visma go out of business. That's bad for cycling. So they will do everything they can to facilitate this merger. So this third guy in the golden triangle here, Jim Ratcliffe at Ineos, this potentially explains why they have no riders under contract for next year. Currently I've heard 19, I see 15 riders under contract for next year. They've potentially just been sitting here waiting, knowing this is going to happen, and they're going to come in and it's going to be fire sale city, and they're going to get amazing riders at a bargain cost. Yeah.
Exactly, because one thing you also have to think about, let's say if those more expensive riders don't find a place, or it's very possible that the current team says, okay, let's say for example Julien Alaphilippe. I think he probably is one of the riders who doesn't want to go to that merge team. A group around him, let's say for example Seneschal, I don't know if he has a contract. I think not. Maybe Remy Cavagna, although I heard he's going to Movistar. But these French riders, they're probably going to go to Total Energies because Peter Sagan is retiring, and Alaphilippe would be the logical star or the famous name to be on that team, and he's French. Casper Asgreen, for example, could go to UNOX. And it's very possible that even if he has a contract, that Soudal says, okay, you know what? UNOX has money. You can have Asgreen, and we pay whatever 40-50% of his contract. So that's another liability less. I mean, or at least let's say if he's at 2 million, they pay 1 million, and UNX pays 1 million. That's another million in the bank for the new team.
Yep. Yeah, and you can kind of fund your team by selling these riders off, and you might don't slam the laptop
by cutting the cost.
Yeah, don't slam the laptop shut. But I was shocked when I heard this. Is this a natural, let's say, contraction? Are there too many teams in the Benelux region? Like too many high level teams competing for the same sponsors? Like think about Lotto, Soudal-QuickStep, Lotto, Destiny, Jumbo-Visma, Intermarché. Like they're all just cannibalizing Alpecin, and they're all cannibalizing each other's sponsors. Is this like a natural contraction in that region?
It could be. It could be. Plus the fact that some of these sponsors are just not able to keep up to speed with the raising budgets. Like right now, if you want to be a top player, let's say the rumor is that Ineos is 50 million. The rumor is that Jumbo-Visma is 35 million. So.
And what do we think UAE is? Probably not that far from Ineos.
I think UAE has a certain budget, but basically they have no budget. If there's something to be done, they just the sheikh just writes a check.
Yeah,
the sheikh writes a check.
I mean, so this is also budgets are going up because salaries are going up. That's the number one cost of these teams, and salaries are going up because guys like Jim Radcliffe and the collective out of the UAE can just write whatever check they need to sign the top riders, which is putting pressure on teams like Jumbo-Visma who have a strict budget they have to stick to. This is, I guess, in essence happening because Jumbo-Visma has a budget shortfall and needs to plug some holes quickly before. If you remember this story, I had forgotten about this. Gorillas, their secondary or tertiary sponsor, just stiffed them earlier this year. Like they had like 5 million outstanding and they just never got paid. That's going to, that was Jumbo. And that's going to leave a hole in the budget. So potentially they just have leaks in the boat that they need to plug ASAP. Yeah. And if you go to Specialized and you say, hey, we're merging these two teams, Cervelo's interested. Would you like to put a bid in to sponsor the team next year? I mean, there's almost no number Specialized wouldn't pay to be the bike sponsor of this merged team. I would guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think Specialized is an important player here. And, we've not talked about Specialized too much, but in my opinion, if you look at Cervelo as a brand on its own, can't compete with the purchasing power of Specialized, although Specialized is part of this group, this Dutch group. I forgot the name now. I think it's PON.
I think it's PON Holdings. Yeah.
They have a lot of money too. So, it's to be seen. But as a brand on its own, it's a no contest. It's Specialized who takes the prize.
Yeah. And PON could be, even though PON is big, they could be hesitant to dump a ton of money into a Cervelo project because they know the amount of sales are limited.
Exactly.
Whereas Specialized, I mean, that's their cash cow. They got to sell these Specialized bikes. Imagine having Jonas, Vindigo, Wout van Aert, Remco Evenepoel all on your bike. That's blockbuster. So I'm sure they're paying a lot of money to be the sponsor of this new team.
Yeah. Well, Spencer, listen, we're just talking here, and we're just
yes. I'm sure they would pay a lot of money if there were a new team.
Let's see what happens. I think from what I can read between the lines, from what I've been getting from inside information, this is real. The talks have been going on. Now, whether it's really going to happen or not, I don't know. But I personally, if I have to put money on it right now, I'm saying it's happening.
I agree. And I would have said on Sunday night, 4% chance. Like, no way. I mean, now I'd be shocked if it doesn't happen. And if, just to wrap it up, if you're Zindik Bacala, the guy who backs Soudal-QuickStep and owns most of the team, you're doing this because you're probably going to put in about the same amount of money, and then you're going to have this blockbuster, superstar, world-leading team. Do you think that's the logic for Bacala?
Well, yeah, that could be one thing, but also it could be that Zdeněk Bacala has been funding the team or the shortfalls of the budget of QuickStep, formerly, and now Soudal. for many years. And at some point, these guys, okay, they do have very, very deep pockets, but they say, okay, hey, it's kind of enough now. I just want to stop pouring money in this. And maybe he's just not interested anymore. I can't personally. If he sees it as a business, he would need to get a serious amount of shares of the team, and still then it's not a business, because we all know that the economical model of a pro cycling team is completely wrong. That you don't make money with a pro team, never. You just, what goes in goes out, because you always want to have better riders, better infrastructure, better hotels, better staff, blah blah blah. So let's say for a guy like Bacala, a guy like Ratcliffe, a guy like Adams, for example, these are hobbies. These are toys that they enjoy, and that they use for their entertainment, and also they use to maintain their circle of business relationships, which is actually what makes most sense for them. They use the team as a vehicle to bring business partners to races, and have a good time, and do business at the VIP area of the races. So we'll see. I don't know, but I think in the next few days we'll hear what's happening. My only doubt is what does Evenepoel do in all this?
I thought there's no way he stays, but
Roglic is kind of, to me, it's kind of clear that he's leaving.
Yeah, and you really see a story this morning that he's talking with Ineos. I think if we're hearing about that, it's potentially already happened. But also, if you're Bacala, and I do think Remco could stay. You've kind of talked me into the fact that it could be good for him to stay. If you're Bacala, you're wondering what happens when Patrick Lefevere retires. Like, who's going to go find those sponsors for this team? He maybe just thinks like, I need to get out now and take a back seat, because I don't want to be stuck funding this team when Lefevere's not selling these sponsorships.
And for Lefevere, it's the ideal exit also. It's not an exit. Reportedly he would be on the board of the new team, and probably gets a really good paycheck. But man, it's I don't blame him. He's in he's in his late 60s, and hey, it would be ideal for him to just be on the board and not have to worry anymore about a day-to-day operation of running, managing, and maintaining a team, and keeping sponsors happy, and so forth and so on. I think for him it makes a lot of sense.
Do you like this, like, as just a viewer of cycling? Do you think this is good or bad?
I don't like it. But first of all, I can tell you it's not fun, because I've done it. And as I said, it is I'm going to say it in capitals, nightmare. Because you're getting people on board. Like, I remember, just with Radio Shack and Nissan, we brought two sponsors to a team that was funded by a wealthy individual, plus the money from Trek. But we brought $15 million between Radio Shack and Nissan to this new team. And I became the general manager of that team. And I guess they had something like 12 million. So we had 20, but I do remember we had a budget of 27 million. 11 years ago, that was a big
huge
budget.
Yeah, huge.
The biggest budget in pro cycling. But it was not fun, because I came into an organization with sponsors, with money, but I was like the intruder. I came to disturb their little thing that they had set up. And I said, well, listen, guys, you can like it or not, but if we're not doing this, your contracts are not going to get paid. So what do you want? It didn't turn out to be a great decision, but I can tell you from experience, it's not fun, and it's really not what it should be, especially in this situation with Jumbo-Visma having to explore this route to ensure their future. That's not good.
And do you think they can do this before 2024? Can they have this in place before the season? Yeah.
I started with it at the end of September, and it all happened like very fast.
Did Roglic and Jonas know about this during the Vuelta?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. No.
Wow,
Nobody knew.
That's wild to think about.
None of the riders knew about this. I don't think so.
Well, thanks, Johan, and we'll let you get back to the camp. I hope it's going well. Do you think are there any more camps coming up in the near future?
Well, this year so the Move Mallorca was a great success. I really have a really good feeling about it. People are really happy. We're definitely doing this again next year in the month of September in Mallorca. Details to be found on the website, but we have added 3 other events to the We Do Travel section of the bike holidays / entertainment, I would say. So we're doing a 3-day camp, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for Strade Bianche. So that's the beginning of March. For Tour of Flanders, that's the beginning of April, and for Paris-Roubaix, which is 2 weeks after. So mid-April. So details can be found on the We Do Travel tab on wedo.team. Places are being sold out, so whoever wants to be part of it needs to be quick, because I think for Strade Bianche and Paris-Roubaix, those 2 at least, I think we're almost full, if we're not full already, and there's still a few places left for the Tour of Flanders event. So you can check it out there.
I think that would be a great trip. Are you guys going to do the Flanders Gran Fondo again the day before?
Yeah, so every one of those events, it's it's Friday. There's a private ride with George and one other to be determined ex-cyclist, probably an ex-winner of the event we were going to. Saturday is the Gran Fondo. Distances to be chosen depending on the level, but we ride as the We Do team in those Gran Fondos with George and with the other star guest. And then on the day of the race, we have the VIP experience. We have our own infrastructure, and we go to the start, we go to different viewing points, and then to the finish.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, the WeDo.team and then the travel tab. That's how you find out more info about it. Make sure you act fast if you want to get in on that. And Johan, have a great dinner there in Mallorca. Have a great final few days. And thank you for sharing your knowledge about this super complicated and shocking merger.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see. Thanks.
I'm very curious to see.